Welcome everybody to what is going to be a fun and fascinating and fabulous day here at the 2019 Scribblers Festival. My name's Deb Fitzpatrick and I'm going to be your MC for the day. You guys will all be in here all day with me, so you'll get to go outside at lunchtime, but you'll be here all day with me. We've got a brilliant session this morning to get the ball rolling, with Jacqueline Harvey taking us on a mysterious international spy mission. We've called her session this morning, "Do you have ways of making Jacqueline Harvey talk?" So that is our mission today. But before we get to that, I need to just go through a few things with you guys. You will have been given one of these, and I know that quite a few of you have already been looking at them and getting a few signings in them. This is one of the journals, the Scribblers Festival journals. There are spaces in there for you to get authors' autographs, to jot down notes, ideas, and to make some cool lists. You might want to use these in the 10-minute break that you'll have at the end of Jacqueline's session and the start of the next session. We might run a little bit over time into that break just because there's a few students still arriving. That's also a really good time for you guys to go to the loo, there are several toilets down at the back of the venue, but please don't be leaving the venue in between the end of this session and the start of next. We're going to keep everyone inside here for that period, and then after that we'll have a proper lunch break and you can go outside and have your lunch. But do get up, have a stretch, do some squats, do some, what other things do you do? Star jumps, dabs, all that stuff. Okay, we would also really like you to fill out the children's survey that your teachers will give you at some point today. You don't have to go to great lengths to fill it out, just please jot down one or two things that you enjoyed or thought about or considered or didn't like about the day. And if you could hand these back before the end of the day, we'd be very grateful. Okay, and finally, you'll be also getting one of these circular cards called a Recipe for Creativity card. And we would love it if you could write one thing on the card that would help you be more creative, like take my dog for a walk, read more books, play FIFA 2019 less often, those sorts of things. Okay, now I'm sure you're going to have a few questions for Jacqueline at the end. If we have time for those, and we're really hoping we will, I will run a mic around to you guys and we will have a couple of minutes at the end for those. I also want to let you know that Jacqueline will be signing books during the lunch break, which is after the second session. The book signing stall is on the Senior School Oval, which is near where you'll be having lunch. Okay. So make sure you have something to eat, make sure you get Jacqueline to sign some books. But now, the important part, let me introduce Jacqueline to you. Jacqueline Harvey has had a passion for storytelling since she was a child. You won't need me to tell you that she's the author of the enormously popular Alice Miranda series, as well as the Clementine Rose series. Her books are award-winning. She tours the world speaking about her writing to kids. Sometimes bits of the kids she meets with end up in her characters. And I don't mean arms and legs. Now, Jacqueline's back with a whole new series for kids. It's called Kenzie and Max, and it's about two kids called Kenzie and Max. It's based on the intriguing spy missions of 11-year-old twins, Kenzie and Max. She's here to tell us more about it. Would you please give a warm, scribbly welcome to Jacqueline Harvey?
Thank you very much. Well, thank you, everybody. Good morning, everyone. Oh, that wasn't too bad. You're probably just warming into it today. It is such a pleasure to be back in Perth. I don't live in Perth. I live in Sydney, so it was a big, long flight to get here yesterday. It was quite a delayed flight, actually, sitting on the tarmac because they said there's a light broken. So we had to wait for about an hour and a half until they fixed the light, but then we got here. That was fine. So today I'm going to tell you some stories. I'm going to tell you how I got to be an author. I'm going to introduce you to Kenzie and Max, and hopefully, yes, we will have some time for questions at the end. I know it's hard to get to somewhere, on time, but we really want to charge ahead. So before we actually begin, I'm going to show you a little video clip that my publishers made to promote Kenzie and Max. the series. So let's have a little look at what Kenzie and Max might be all about. Here we go. I think it's an awesome clip. So Kenzie and Max is about two 11-year-old twins, Kenzie and Max. Their full names are Kensington and Maxim, and they find out some really interesting things about their family, and subsequently learn that the life that they thought that they were leading, well, maybe it really wasn't the life they were meant to lead at all. We're going to talk more about that shortly, but before I start, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got to be a writer. So I haven't always been a full-time author. In fact, I had a different job, a job that I loved and a job that I did for a really long time. In fact, here are some of the skills that I had in my previous profession. Some of my skills included things like having eyes in the back of my head. Other things included being able to decipher any written work, reading upside down, the ability to listen to at least 3 conversations at the same time and know exactly what was going on, spotting unusual behaviour a mile away, extracting a confession with a minimum of pain and not too many tears, doing at least 10 things at the same time whilst giving the illusion of absolute calm, and being able to respond to the most difficult of inquiries with tact and a smile. Was I a spy? Put up your hand if you think I could have been a spy with all of those skills. I absolutely think spies need all these skills, but I wasn't a spy. Put up your hand and tell me, what do you think I was? Yes, young man with the stripy shirt and the glasses, right there, yes. I was a teacher. Don't you think I was actually a teacher and I was a deputy headmistress? Don't you think teachers would make awesome spies? Next time your teacher's sending a text message under the desk, it might not be them going, "Oh, look, love, could you bring some milk home after work today?" It might be them saying, "The mission is go." You never know, because one of the things about being a spy, kids, is that, are you meant to let people know that you're a spy? No. I was actually in a school the other day and this little boy put up his hand and he goes, "A spy's real?" I said, "Yes. We just don't really know who they are because they're not meant to tell us who they are." So anyway, I was a teacher and I loved being a teacher. In fact, I knew I was going to be a teacher from the age of about 9 and a half. Put up your hand if you know what you want to be when you grow up. I'm going to choose someone here. What do you want to be? She wants to be a dancer. I'm going to choose somebody right in the back row, the very, very far girl with the glasses on. Can you call out loudly? A songwriter. What an awesome thing to be. And the boy in the red top right here. Are you a boy? Yes. Yes. A paleontologist. You know, when I was your age, I wouldn't have even known what that meant. Hands down. I knew I wanted to be a teacher from the age of 9 and a half. But if you had asked me when I was 9 and a quarter, "Do you think you'd like to be a teacher when you grow up?" I would have said, "No way. Teachers are terrifying." Put up your hand if you think teachers can be slightly scary sometimes. Quick, put your hands down. They're all looking at you. My life changed completely when I was about 9 and a quarter. My dad came home one day and he said, "I need to have a serious talk to you." Now, if your dad says, "I need to have a serious talk to you," you're probably not thinking, "Woohoo, he just bought me a pony." Who would be thinking, "Uh-oh, I'm in trouble"? Me. I thought, "Oh no, did I forget to do one of my jobs?" One of my jobs was to feed our dog. We had the biggest, fattest black Labrador in Australia. She never would have starved because she was excellent she had two excellent skills. She was an escapologist, meaning that she could escape from anywhere. She was also a garbologist, meaning that she liked to raid everybody's garbage bins in the neighbourhood, and she would eat anything. In fact, on garbage night, we actually caught her how she used to escape from our house. She used to jump up on the gate on her tippy toes, on her hind legs. She would open the latch and she would dance backwards like this on her hind legs, and she would get the gate open just enough that she could run through and make her great escape and then make a horrible mess all over our front yard. It wasn't the dog. I thought, uh-oh, have I been mean to my little sisters? I've got two younger sisters. And Dad said, no. He said, it's just that you're not in trouble, not this time. He said, just that your mum and I have made a big decision and it's going to affect you more than anyone else in the family. Now, I have to tell you, kids, when I was your age, I was a bit of a worrier. Actually, that's a big fat lie, because I wasn't a bit of a worrier. I was a humongous worrier. Does anybody here a bit of a worrier sometimes? You know, you wake up in the night and your brain doesn't switch off. I have some advice for you. I was the kid that worried about everything and anything. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and my brain would be going 100 miles an hour, but I never told anybody. And if you don't tell anybody your worries, do they get bigger and do they get smaller and smaller and smaller and disappear in a puff of smoke? No, they get bigger. Now, this was me, honestly. I used to go to bed at night. I'll use this chair. This was me. I'd be going to bed at night and I'd be just about asleep when all of a sudden this would happen. I think there's an anaconda outside my window. Which was utterly ridiculous because there were no giant snakes slithering around the streets where I lived. So I never said anything to anybody about being a worrier because I thought if I told my mum, Mum, I think there's an anaconda outside my window, she would have said, you're an idiot. She never would have said that. She's a lovely mum. And she was horrified when I told her as a grown-up that, I was worried about so much stuff. She said, why didn't you tell me? I said, I thought you'd think I was an idiot. She said, well, I think you're an idiot now that you didn't tell me. Anyway, if you're a worrier, hands down, you need to share your worries because a worry shared is a worry halved. So I'm worried about what my dad's going to say. He says, look, sweetheart, we're selling the house. Now, in my 9-year-old brain that worries about everything, I'm thinking, why are we selling the house? This is a good house. We've got a pool. We just did an extension. Oh, my goodness, Mum and Dad must have lost all their money. If we've got no money and no house, where are we going to live? Oh, no, we have to go and live in my grandma's garage. And Dad said, we're not going to live in your grandmother's garage. We're just going to move quite far away from where we live now. What do you think Dad was nervous about telling me that I was going to have to change? What do you think? What do you think I was going to have to change? Yes? Yes, I was really used to living there. What do you think? Change schools. And Dad said, look, sweetheart, we know you might be a bit scared and a bit sad, but we think it's for the best. You're going to have to go to a new school. And I looked at my dad and I said, yes! And my dad said, what? I said, you don't understand. I have the scariest teacher in the whole of Australia. My teacher was about 7 feet tall. He had jet black hair that was shiny like crow's feathers, and he used to look at the kids in our class every day like this. He didn't like children. Now, what kind of a brainiac adult wakes up one day and goes, hang on a minute, I need a career now. I'm a grown-up. I wonder, what should I be? Let me have a think about this. I really, 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 really hate children. I've got it. I think I should become a teacher. I'm pretty sure he got the word teacher mixed up with the word torturer. Because that's what he was. Now, terrible story, kids, but back when I was a little girl, do you know teachers used to be allowed to hit kids at school? This teacher of ours used to like to hit the kids a lot. In fact, if anybody in our class did the slightest thing wrong, like look sideways at the person next to them, he'd point this finger that I used to imagine was kind of like a Go Gadget finger that could extend all the way to the back of the room, and he'd say, right, you, out the front now. That poor kid would come to the front of the room, their knees would be knocking together, their teeth would be chattering, the rest of us, our hearts were pounding, our mouths were dry. We knew what was about to happen next. Mr. Watson would say, don't move. He would march to the corner of the classroom where he kept a very special cupboard. He would open up that cupboard, he would have a little look, and he would pull out one of his numerous special weapons, and he would always do this with it. Give it a flex. He'd have a couple of practice swings. This thing would fly through the air. Then that poor kid would have to hold out their hand and he would whack them across the fingertips. Put up your hand and tell me, what was Mr. Watson's weapon of choice? Yes. Ah, I'm so glad you said that. He said it was the cane. The cane was a long, skinny, whippy stick of bamboo. It stung like mad if you got hit by it. I've had some bad answers to that question. I've had things like, was it a whip? No. Was it a stick? Sort of. Was it a ruler? No. Funniest answer, I was working in a school in the outback in South Australia a few years ago, and these kids, they just didn't seem to know about the cane, and this kid, he was sitting there, and he looked absolutely terrified, and he goes, I know what it was, I really do. I said, mate, what do you think it was? He goes, it was a sword. I said, no, he didn't used to go around chopping off the children's fingers, for goodness sakes. The worst answer I had from a kid in England, I was working at a school in England and this kid puts up his hand. English kids generally know about the cane. This kid puts up his hand, he goes, I'm pretty sure it was a frying pan. No, he didn't used to go donking kids with a frying pan. Anyway, when my dad said that we were moving, I was like, yes. I couldn't possibly get the second scariest teacher in Australia. Could I? Put up your hand if you think I got the second scariest teacher in Australia. Hands down. Put up your hand if you hope I got the second scariest teacher in Australia. What a bunch of meanies you are. And fortunately for me, you're wrong. I ended up with the best teacher in Australia. And the reason that little girl there, that little girl, hang on, which one? Oh, I've done the wrong one. I've done the wrong one again. Now I've turned it off. Goodness me, can we fix it up? Sorry, I can do this. It's all right. I just got to start playing it again. I pressed the wrong button. Yep, we're back. Good. We will be back. So the reason that the little girl with the red ring around her face, forget about me trying to, there we go, there's the pointer, became a teacher is all because of that lady there. Now, Mrs. Hogan, she could sing and paint and draw and play the piano, and every day in her class was like the best adventure. But my favourite part of the day, she used to pull up a big old chair and every afternoon she would read to us. And stories for me just came alive off the page when she would read. And one of my favourite things was having the teacher read aloud to me. Put up your hand if you love it when the teacher reads aloud to you. Oh, not as many hands up as I would hope for. But anyway, I'm glad that there's a lot of you who do love that. So anyway, I wanted to be a writer, but unlike you guys, I never met an author when I was growing up. To me, authors were very mysterious people. I thought they must all live in England in cottages somewhere in the woods. I had no idea that people in Australia were authors. How did that happen? So I became a teacher, and for a long time I used to just write stuff for my own classes. I was also a person, though, who right from the time I was very small, I was always telling stories. And I want to encourage you to do the same. Now, when I became a teacher, something used to bother me a lot about the kids at my school. I'd hear them getting picked up in the afternoons, and their parents would say to them, so what did you do at school today? And you know, children have a really bad habit. There is a word that flies out of their mouths before they have time to engage their brains. It's a word parents hate, teachers hate it. It starts with N. Pretend I'm your mum and I'm picking you up from school today. What did you do at school today, kids? I did nothing. It's not true. Even on the slackest day, you never do nothing. I don't want you to go home this afternoon and go, that word, or something like it. You know, kids often say things like, oh, I don't know, whatever, can't remember. Don't do that. Tell stories. If you learn to tell a good story, you'll learn to be better at writing stories. Right from the time I was little, I was always telling stories. And if you learn to tell a good story, you learn about characters, you learn what makes people laugh, what makes people cry, what makes people glaze over with complete boredom and look at you like, oh, please stop telling that story. It's the most boring thing I've ever heard in my life. You learn how to read people. And when I write a story, kids, I don't just go to the computer and write it all down. I talk about it before I start. I talk about the story ideas with my husband and my publisher and my publicist. And I find that talking about a story really helps to develop the story. So, as I said, I was always telling stories. I'm going to tell you a very quick story. It's actually about the snake story. So when I was a young teacher, I had 28 children in my class in kindergarten, and after lunch, I worked in a school in New South Wales that had a lot of land around it. It was in the bush, and sometimes we'd get, the odd creature would come through the school, like there's a wallaby might hop on through, or a wombat might run down the playground. On this particular day, I came in after lunch, and instead of 28 children on the floor, there's 2. And I looked at this little girl and this little boy, and I said, "Where is everyone?" And the little girl looked up at me and she goes, "They're outside with the snake." I said, "They're what?" She goes, "They're outside with the snake. I don't like snakes, so I came inside." "What do you mean they're outside with a snake?" She said, "They're just over there." And I saw all these little heads just outside the windowsill. I ran around outside, and there, sure enough, in 2 beautiful straight lines, is my entire kindergarten class, bar 2 of them, and in between the middle of them is a copperhead snake. I say to the kids, "Freeze, don't move." Now, I had this kid in my class called Robbie. Robbie thought that he was related to Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter. This was the kid that if I'd have said to Robbie, "Hey, Robbie, go and wrestle that dog," he would have gone, "Yeah, okay, I can wrestle that dog." He was that kid who would do anything. I say to the kids, "Right, kids, freeze, don't anybody move." And Robbie looks at me, all 5 years old, and he goes, "It's okay, Mrs. Harvey, I've got a stick." No, do not go near that snake with a stick. Now, if we had more time, I could tell you a lot more funny stories. Robbie actually he's given me a whole collection of funny stories. But instead, I want to talk about spies. So, I want to know, very quickly, what sort of skills would you need if you're going to be a spy? Yes, young man there. Stealth, that's a great word. Yes, the girl over there. Elusive, what another great word. Great vocabulary, kids. Right at the very back in the middle. You need a guillotine. Oh, agility. I thought you said a guillotine. I'm thinking, you don't need to chop off people's heads in a spy business, do you? No, agility, yes. Obviously, my old age hearing's not going so well. What do you think? Camouflage and spy goggles. Maybe I should get myself a pair of spy goggles, night vision glasses. What do you think? A saucepan? I don't know if you need a saucepan. Maybe you do. Hands down, here are some of the things on my list. You need excellent powers of observation. You need to be able to see things other people don't notice. You also need to be able to listen to multiple things at the same time. You need a brilliant memory, be able to spot unusual behaviour, good instincts, be calm under pressure, determination, physically fit and strong, the ability to blend into a crowd. If you were doing a spy mission down at, the lovely Claremont shopping centre there, would it be a good idea to go dressed in your bikini? No, boys, I definitely recommend you do not go to the Claremont shopping centre dressed in a bikini. If you were doing your spy mission at the beach, maybe you'd go in your swimmers, but you'd probably go to the shops just dressed as a normal kid because nobody's going to expect a kid's a spy. Mentally tough and agile and a good disguise. Now, I am going to tell you very quickly a few things about Kenzie and Max. Each of these books is set in a different part of the world, and you get a very good clue as to where it's set from the silhouette of the buildings in the background. Put up your hand and tell me the first book, where or what is that structure and where is it? What is it and where is it? It's not the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Yes. That one there. No, it is a bridge in London, but it's not called the London Bridge. Does anybody know what it's really called? Yes. Yes, you with the glasses, yep. It's not called the Buckingham Bridge. It starts with a T. Have you ever heard of the Tower Bridge? That's what it is. Now, the first book is set partly in London and partly in the north of England. The second book, where on earth is Disappearing Act set? Yes. It's set in Rome, and that building is the Colosseum. Rome is the capital of what country? Italy. And if anybody gets this one wrong, I'll be very disappointed. What is that building there? Sydney Opera House. So the third book is set in Sydney, mostly in Sydney. It starts off in London with some pretty explosive action in London. Now, I want to see whether you have what it takes to be a spy. In a minute, we are going to play a game. This only works if you are absolutely silent and you listen to the instructions. Teachers, you'll glean a whole lot of information about the listening skills of your students when you watch this game. So, in a moment, I'm going to put up a slide. I don't want you to move, I don't want you to talk, I just want you to look with your eyes, not with your lips. Look. And then I'm going to put up a question. There will be 3 alternative answers to the question, A, B, and C. I don't want you to move until I ask you to close your eyes and then make your decision, and you decide whether it's A, B, or C. Now, if you think the answer is A, we'll test this out. If you think the answer is A, you're going to lock your hands firmly on top of your head. So show me if you think the answer is A. Show me if you think the answer is B. B is folded arms. B. A. C. B. C. A. D. All right, here we go. First slide. Just take it in, no speaking. Here we go. That is the beautiful Tower Bridge in London. Shh, no speaking. Here's the question, and no moving yet. What colour, other than grey stone, is featured on the tower? No. You know how to play the game. Is featured on the Tower Bridge in London. Keep your hands down at the moment. Is it A, blue? Is it B, green? Don't move yet. See? Listening? I don't know what it is with kids. I just don't listen. C, red. Don't move. Oh, my goodness. Now, close your eyes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Make your decision. Oh, looks like most of you are pretty good. It is, of course, hands on heads, A, blue. Okay, the next one. This is a listening skill. Listen carefully to the following announcement.
This is the final boarding call for passengers Gemma and Ryan Gray flying to Athens on flight EZ9753. Your flight is ready to leave. Please go to gate 14 immediately. The doors of the plane will close in 5 minutes. Final boarding call for passengers Gemma and Ryan Gray.
Okay, here's the question. Again, don't move. What was the name of the passengers being paged? Was it A, Jenna and Riley Gray, B, Gemma and Ryan Gray, or C, Gemma and Ryan Green? Close your eyes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Make your decision. Oh, much more of a mixed bag this time. If you have your arms folded, congratulations. It was Gemma and Ryan Gray. Now, for a bonus, put up your hand and tell me, the lady who was making the announcement, where did her accent come from? Your hand was up first? No, not England, but you're not too far away. Yes, young lady with the ponytails. Scotland. And for your trouble, you have just won yourself a very, very limited edition Kenzie and Max Invisible Ink Spy Pen. So come and see me at the end. Give her a round of applause. Well done. Okay, next one. Here's Kenzie and Max. They're standing outside the townhouse where they're going to live in London. Take it in. As much information as you can. And here's the question. Kenzie and Max are standing outside the townhouse where they're staying in Ponsonby Terrace in London. How many black front doors are in the picture? Was it A, 4, B, 5, or was it C, none? Close your eyes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Make your decision. Oh, again, a mixed bag, but if you have your hands on your backs, well done, because the answer is none. And put up your hand and tell me, what colour were they? Blue. You too have won yourself a limited edition Kenzie and Max Spy Pen. Come and see me after. Okay, last one. The ultimate test of your visual detection. Here we go. Don't bother counting the tiles, that's not the question. All right. And here's the question. How many planes are there in the photo? Oh, you've forgotten how to play already. Was it A, 3? Was it B, 5? Was it C, 4? Make your decision. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well done if you have your arms folded, because it's 5. And for those of you who can't see it, here we go. Shh. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, shh. So, I'm going to tell you in a very short space of time what was the inspiration behind Kenzie and Max. I wanted to write a spy series because I love all things spies. Hands down, it's a rhetorical question. You can only answer that if you live in my head. So, Kenzie and Max was inspired by the fact that I just love spy stories, and I thought it would be really cool to have 2 kids who really have an extraordinary life. Now, these kids, even before we find out that their family has this, strange past, they do live an unusual life anyway, because these kids have never lived in the same place for more than 6 or 7 months at a time. They move every 6 or 7 months because they think they move because of mum and dad's jobs. Mum's a doctor. Dad's a paramedic, but it's not because they work, in hospitals. They work with ski patrols all around the world. And they chase the cold weather, they chase the snow seasons all around the world, but they never go back to the same place twice, which is kind of starting to do their heads in a bit. They're saying, well, why can't we ever go back to the friends that we made? It's lucky that they love each other most of the time because they need each other. They're the best of friends. They're also very good at making friends too. So Kenzie and Max, when we first meet them, they have been living in Australia in a ski resort called Thredbo in New South Wales. They get to the end of the time, the end of the ski season, and mum and dad say, okay, kids, well, we've got to start packing soon. We're going to live in Switzerland next month. The kids are like, what? Can't we just stay here for 1 more month? We've got a school camp coming up, and we've got this fundraiser, and we really want to stay. And the parents are like, oh, I don't know about that. Why don't you go on a holiday? Go to Africa and work with that medical charity you're always talking about. Well, of course the parents aren't irresponsible. They're not going to leave 2 11-year-olds at home on their own. Kenzie and Max have a manny. Now, a manny, Kenzie calls him the manny because he's a man and he's their nanny. His name is Fitz. Fitz is a really big, tall, muscly dude, bald head. He teaches them lots of things when they're not at school. He also likes to do the ironing, and he's pretty good at baking as well. He basically looks after the kids when mum and dad are at work, but he is their teacher too. And he teaches them all sorts of skills that the kids think it's just normal to know, like doesn't every kid know how to do Morse code and crack other codes? And doesn't every kid know how to do mixed martial arts and, rock climbing without harnesses and all that sort of stuff? Well, maybe not. But the thing with Kenzie and Max is they have all these skills that they don't know that they know until they need to know it, if you know what I mean. So, Kenzie and Max convince mum and dad. Mum and dad reluctantly go off on this holiday. Fitz looks after them. When it comes time to meet in Switzerland, he takes them to Switzerland. They get to the place they're staying, and mum and dad aren't there. Fitz is weird about it from the get-go. He says, kids, get in the car. We need to be somewhere. What? We've just been travelling for 2 days. We don't want to go anywhere. Get in the car. This is not negotiable. They drive for 16 hours through the Swiss Alps, down across France, under the English Channel, and all the way up to North Yorkshire in England. They arrive at this place in the middle of the night. Kenzie is sound asleep in the back of the car, dribbling on a pillow. She's been asleep for hours. She only has 2 speeds, this kid. She's either flat out or she's sound asleep. Max is awake, and he sees the outline of this gigantic building, and he thinks, whoa, that's the fanciest hotel we've ever stayed in. Now, a man in a red dressing gown and with glasses and red slippers comes out of the back of the building, and he comes to the car, and Fitz opens the door, and the man says, good evening, Mr. Fitz. It's wonderful to see you. And he shakes Fitz's hand. And Max is in the car thinking, who's this dude? We've never seen this guy before. We've never even been to England. What's going on? How does Fitz know this guy? Anyway, they get taken upstairs to bed in this, what they think is a hotel. And they're put to bed in 2 giant, huge beds. Kenzie doesn't wake up at all. As Max's head hits the pillow, he hears the guy in the red dressing gown and Fitz say something really disturbing. But he's so tired, he can't keep his eyes open long enough to ask, is it true or not? He drifts off to sleep. In the morning, Kenzie is up. She's ready to face the world. She's had a shower. She wants to get going. She's trying to wake her brother up. She's like, Max, wake up. He's like, Max, wake up! Max! She blows in his ear. He wrestles her away and he pulls the cover up over his head. Get away from me! She goes to the window, she opens the drapes, she looks outside, she says, no way. She can't stand it a second longer. She runs across, she jumps on the end of Max's bed. She starts jumping up and down like a trampoline. Poor Max's head is going gadunk, gadunk, gadunk on the pillow. She says, Max, you've got to get up. This place is incredible. The bathtub's so big you could swim laps in it. The garden is like nothing I've ever seen before. And somebody's locked us in our room. Max says, Kenzie, you're just imagining it. She's got a wild imagination. Someone who locks 2 kids in a hotel room? What if there was a fire? It's very irresponsible. Anyway, 5 minutes. So, Kenzie ends up picking the lock. They find out she picks the lock because Fitz taught her how to pick locks the other day. Max doesn't believe that she can do it, but she can. They go exploring and they realise they're not actually in a hotel at all. They're in this place. And this place is a huge mansion called Alexandria. And the woman who owns this place is a lady called Dame Cordelia Spencer, and she owns a newspaper. Anyway, we've run out of time for me to tell you much more about Kenzie and Max, but I will just say the first book and all of the books have maps in them so you can orient yourself to the places in the stories. This is Alexandria, that great big house. And the action then goes down to London. And I've got to tell you, kids, I don't often confess that I get my best ideas for stories from going to the pub, but this time I did. I went to this pub in London, to the restaurant upstairs, just here. The restaurant in this pub is called the Spying Room. And I thought, why would you call your restaurant the Spying Room? But even more bizarre, when you go there for lunch, they give you a pair of binoculars on your table. And I'm thinking, why do you get binoculars on your table in a restaurant? Are you meant to spy on everyone's lunch and see if it looks any good before you order your own? No, you're meant to spy at this place, which is right across the river. This is the headquarters of MI6, which is Britain's international spy organisation. And the reason I got the idea to write Kenzie and Max, I asked the man who ran the pub, I said, have you ever seen anything interesting at MI6? And he looked at me, absolutely deadpan. He said, you know what, Jack? He said, Dull, I've worked here for 16 years. He said, in 16 years, the lights go on and off, computer screens flicker. He said, but I've never seen a person in that building. And I thought, why would you tell the world where your spies really hang out? And so that's why I invented Pharos, the spy organisation that the kids belong to. Now, lots of action takes place in different parts, as I said, of the country. Kenzie and Max is all about these things. Not throwing bananas, by the way. It's about throwing ninja stars and throwing grappling hooks. And these kids develop all sorts of skills. Their adventures next are going to take them to Paris. Kenzie and Max out of sight. So they will be off to Paris very shortly, if I finish the book, probably tonight at midnight. So anyway, before we go, you do know that I also write Clementine Rose. I also write Alice Miranda. If you're a keen Alice Miranda fan, this one's coming in June. Alice Miranda keeps the beat. And more exciting, Alice Miranda will have her own television show at the end of the year. She's going to be a television movie on Channel 9. So I'm very excited about that. If you want to know more about me, go to my website, look me up, sign up to the newsletter. You get all sorts of information. And yeah, I think we've probably run out of time. Thank you very, very much for having me.
So, Jacqueline,
yes,
we've got maybe a minute or two.
All right, who's got a
questions.
question? Who's got a question? Make sure, hang on, before we ask this, is it a good question?
Yep.
Is your teacher going to look at you and go, oh, good grief, I can't imagine they asked that question? Think about the quality of the question. Okay, Deb, off you go.
Come here. Okay, good question.
What's your favourite book that you've made?
Okay, it's a bit like asking parents who their favourite child is.
Yep.
I think of my books as like my babies, and I love them all the same. I don't have a favourite book and I don't have a favourite character. Next question. Who's got a question?
Next question. We're
that looks
coming
like
down here or in the back.
A responsible question answer.
We have Isaac.
Okay.
What's your favourite Alice Miranda book?
I don't have a favourite Alice Miranda book either.
Okay.
What do you... Oh, I forgot it.
Quick.
What year did you start making books?
Okay, my very first Alice Miranda book came out in 2010. I've written 34 books since then, but I did write 4 books earlier than that. But I kind of consider I was an author when I gave up my other job. So, yes, question.
What inspired you to start writing?
Okay, all the fabulous kids that I've taught over the years, and the fact that I was always telling stories, and my husband, who said to me one day, "You talk about wanting to be a writer all the time." I was like, "Yeah, I know." He goes, No, you don't understand. You talk about it like non-stop. And he said, "Here's the thing. Are you ever going to do anything about it, or are you going to talk about it for the rest of your life?" And I thought, well, that's my challenge. I'll get on with it. So I think we have to finish up, kids, because you've got Kate and Joel who are coming in next to talk to you, and they're very excited to do that. So thank you very much, kids.
Please
yes, you are allowed to clap. Big claps.
Please give Jacqueline Harvey a huge round of applause.
Thank you.